Which one? Back there? Oh, it's still in there? But that one is, I need to take it down and take it to my office. That's on you. Well, it's on YouTube Live, that one. That's the only time I use it, is to do YouTube.
Are you just coasting?
My last meeting of this, that'll be to your one. Got one more left.
That's
You gotta come so I can talk good about you. Oh, everybody be throwing up.
When's your retirement party? What?
I'll come over there and you can sit and talk for about 10 minutes. That'll be retired.
Well,
My father-in-law worked with the city of Fort Smith, and he was over the parks, the landfill and everything, and they said, "Where your takes it? I won't be there." And they threw him a retirement party. He didn't show up.
he didn't show
They
up.
got him a shotgun. They had to go deliver it. 'Cause he didn't. He said, "I ain't gonna be there." I don't do nothing.
Well, it's just the way everybody can say, you know, how much they appreciated you and everything.
So you're an idiot. And, man, I already know that. You know, this one. You're gonna be
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how your salary is, you know, split up, how much, you know, you're really worth, you know, when it shows that you're paying two people now to do what you did.
Yeah. A lot of stuff he's doing is really smart.
I know you could. I know you could. Like you said, yeah, those are some lean years. You had to just make do with what you had.
10 years and for 4 years couldn't afford to make that money. It was bad. Then all of a sudden I had money. I thought, I'm so used to putting on Band-Aids, I don't know what to do. And we thought, well, we could do something with number one. So what could we do? Because you can't work on it because it's one pit. You got water coming in from all kinds of, 12 lift stations, 10 lift stations on that side. And so we thought, well, let's build a new one. So I got in there and first thing I did was say, I said, if you put the stuff in there, I want concrete. I heard concrete's like $100 a yard, $200 a yard. And it's that salt, that acid sulfide won't hurt it. In other words, the stuff that eats off the
Oh,
walls.
yeah.
They didn't put it on the bottom. I said, you're not putting my concrete in it, so it didn't matter on the bottom.
Oh,
They put it on
really?
the Water, underwater, it doesn't matter. But they put it on the wall. Plus they put a breather that keeps the air moving through it. The biggest thing I had them do, me and Burner was part of it. How to get a bronze statue there. Put a wall in between it. And you've got a wet pump, which and a dry pump on one side. The same on the other. If something goes wrong, you can pull the side off and work on it. On the other side, you don't need it though. It's got everything. Plus, since then, I've been putting better stuff in motor drives and stuff that adjust. It's just getting along. Yeah. Put that wall. Couldn't do anything to the wall because it was just there.
Just
You couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
The wall was falling in. All the stuff you got now. You start fixing it. Didn't know what to do. And I hate to spin it just to spin it. And I feel bad that we don't have that many 3/4.
Do I have to have a motion to go back in?
No, but you have to call it, state it. No action.
We do have, we're gonna have. We'll call the meeting back to order after we, out of executive session. We'll approach this here in the budget, when we get to the budget section, what we did. If that's, is that appropriate to say? Okay. All right, very good. Moving right along. We got the revised 2025 operating budget. Tom sent us. Appreciate that, Tom. And at this time, department heads, do you have anything that you need to change, amend, or would like to speak to the commission about?
I did have some things that I amended. I'm getting a copy of Tom's now.
Okay.
On the capitals page,
Could you tell us what page number it is? Do you have yours circled, written and circled at the bottom?
I do not have page numbers on mine. It should be the last page.
I didn't.
Yeah, we don't have the copy.
But they don't have a copy of the budget up here. I didn't have one for them.
Oh, okay. I emailed them.
Yeah, I just
emailed-
didn't print it off.
Okay,
Here, I
My old one.
Oh, I didn't get one.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I would
did
print it.
too.
Do you want me to go print it?
Yeah.
Does anybody need to print a
No,
copy?
I've got my old one.
You've got our old one?
Mhm.
You need one? You need one?
He's gonna put it up on the screen. We'll have it on the screen.
yeah,
Okay.
this, yeah.
Well, if you need one, I can copy it. Just let me know.
Is somebody holding this meeting up?
I'm sorry, I'm getting there if I can find it.
No, I was just looking at you. I was talking to her.
Page 33. Sewer collection.
33.
That's not ours.
Wait a minute. Here we go. I got it.
What page?
Okay.
What line are you on?
What page?
Capital improvement systems where it says final phase Indian Hills.
Got it.
Initially, I didn't have anything in there when we reviewed this, because I was waiting on a price from Henry, and I took, based on a bond that was approved for a project project and based the numbers off the distance of line we're gonna install, and I came up with a value of about 1.5. So that should be in the ballpark of what that's gonna cost. And then I did the same with the bypass line relocation for the lines we have to fix on South Coker Street, and I came up with about 350, which was the same that we had in there from the previous year. Those were the only two big changes that I had on mine. So there's a value present.
Anyone have any questions for Dalton?
On that bypass line relocation, is that, I mean, like, again, was that based on like 2 years ago data, you know?
Well,
or
last year Jeremy recommended 350 total project, so that's what we budgeted. John asked me when I got in here, we just paid an invoice for 250, and I was mistaken. It wasn't for the plant, it was for the bypass for the sleeves that we installed for number one lift station force mains. But I ran the distance on what we're gonna do on Coker Street, and I came up with about 350 to cover that section. So the amount we had would not have been sufficient for the entire scope of the project, but we're also supposed to receive refunds from the state for their portion of that as well. And I don't know when we're gonna get those.
The mini mall lift station basin study, that's to take care of Denver and West Center.
Yeah, the plan is to do a drainage basin study between West Center Street and Elm Street, where the new bypass is gonna run, to see where a proper location would be for the lift station to not only accommodate what that lift station's serving now, but add additional service area to that site. And then we'll take the force main from there off of number one, which would free up space at number one directly to the treatment plant. So that could help us allow some growth down towards 71 Highway. That value is to do the study to determine the site
Next
and,
phase would be design of something.
yeah, right now it's just to determine where it would be properly located and then maybe acquire a site, and then we'll go into design phase
When
on it.
you get ready to execute that, we will need to borrow money.
Yeah,
It's
that's gonna be,
millions.
when we built number one lift station back in 2010 or 11, I believe we paid $750,000 for that. We're probably gonna need a lift station that size or larger, and just based on what the Ware Road lift station is gonna cost, I would think that would come in around $3 million.
Every bit of it.
And the same thing costs 750.
Because
Cost
you'll
$750 in
need 2 lift
2010.
stations, because to get Denver, get mini mall over to Elm, you're gonna need a little mini lift station to get it over, anything over there.
Yeah, we may very
So-
well need something half the size of what we're gonna do at Ware Road to get it all the way to the treatment plant or serve a little bit of the area down Elm Street.
Since we're on Dalton's part of the budget. do we
Yeah, I
wanna-
would like to make a motion that we amend the Director of Sewers salary to what we discussed in the executive session,
It would be 5,000.
$5,000.
Upward.
Yes.
And we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? I have a second. Would you call for a vote?
Sure. Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Any more questions?
No, but you'll have to add that in there.
Thank you.
Okay. Greg, do you have anything? Okay. Tim?
I just want to mention that the bypass, we have 900,000 budgeted.
Mm-hmm.
That was our engineer's number.
It could get bigger than that, but it's kind of dragging along. So I don't know if that was our best estimate. So if it does, we'll amend it and we'll adjust. We have a lot of projects carried over, Thomas and I were discussing, and they're painful and they're painful carryovers. But that $1,000,000 tank, you can ask, Greg's been sitting at the health department. And no matter what kind of numbers you throw around, if it's sitting at the health department, it's sitting at the health department and you can't put it out to bid. And they're bogged, they have a backlog, I guess, and they've lost a lot of senior members. It's my understanding at the health department, there've been a big turnover, a lot of different people doing different jobs down there. But That's been a big problem. And there's stuff sitting there and they're just not approved.
You talking about in the queue, sitting
Right.
in the queue? Yeah.
And, and you know, some stuff, surprisingly, I see small stuff sometimes turned around rather quick. But I see a lot of stuff just kind of drag out there and especially when you get into bigger items like tanks and things like that. And when that happens, it's,
When we send it down, do they know whether it's ARPA funded or not? Or they don't know?
Health Department?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they know. I can't answer that question. That I don't know.
Not if you're
I
not.
know that one of the things that happens is they kick back questions. That's customary. And then the question, and then they get answered, and then they kick back some more. Those questions and more questions arise. And I honestly think that the fact that there is all of this money with all these tight timelines has caused overabundance of work to hit them. That's my personal opinion. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I've been doing this for 30 years and I've not seen, I used to complete things every year, push projects, regardless what anybody might think in here. I pushed projects and got them done every year within that physical budget. Very rarely had carryovers. And COVID, we lost our footing and we never got it back. I'm not blaming it on COVID, but what it did, it caused price increases. It caused engineering shortages. It caused engineers are looking for more engineers to hire. It caused contractor shortages. And I can't just go fire my engineer. If y'all want to bring him down here, I would love and question him about some of these. That would be great. I'll ask him to come to our next meeting. But at any rate,
Well, he can't do anything about the state, so.
I'm out of answers. And Hawkins and Weir is a big company. I can't use a real small, I can use a small company for small things. As a matter of fact, I do have that creek crossing is going to be done by an individual engineer. But you need the bigger companies, and the bigger companies will make you these promises. But when they're out of Little Rock or they're out, we had an engineer out of Texas County, and you ask Greg what the debacle that was. It's just, I just don't have any answers. Maybe he could shed some light on some of this if y'all would like to talk to him, because I'm very frustrated. I do think that you're going to see this coming year, these carryovers. And he also promised me that building would start and be done by November. And I said, if it's not, I said, we're not doing any more. And I was ready to, I had another person I was going to select and use. And he's bringing someone else in on it, and it's supposed to happen. So, and these others, they're all real close anyway. And it's just, but the highway project, it could get bigger. We could need more money. I don't know where that's going.
Okay, first, let me tell you about that highway bypass relocation. You'll see an A sitting outside beside it. That money is earmarked for the surplus that was generated by ARPA. It's sitting in a restricted account under general and will be transferred to, that's $972,000, which is going to cover a lion's share of that cost as it's on the books today. So 900 of that is covered by that A money, as I call it, surplus. It's not ARPA money. It's money that was generated as a surplus by a way we use the ARPA money. And we dedicated that back to the water department because initially it was going to be water sewer money, ARPA money in the first place. So on advice of our council, they advised us to do the salaries, do it as revenue replacement. And then after we did that, it created this large surplus that we dedicated back. So that's not coming out of your coffers right now. It's not even in your $5.8 million right now. It's sitting in the general fund as a restricted fund.
And we may exceed the 900,000 and then later get reimbursed from the state where it brings us under 900,000 too. That's a
So
possibility.
it's also restricted for sewer portion. They got a $350,000 amount on their side.
There is some reimbursables, and it's a certain percentage. And it's never been made clear to me exactly if we have to, those contractors, they send those pay requests when they hit that percentage, they're looking for their money. It's not been send them to me if we've got to come up with the money or if the state comes up with the money. And those are details we need to find out. This has never been in a situation, I've never been in a partnership type thing where the state is paying part of it before. No, not been down that road. But yeah, there will be a percentage, the things that were within, and I'll give you, for instance, right where the state highway building is right now, they're doing something right now, we went out and spotted the water line for them. When we got on both sides of the state highway building, we chose to put the new water line out of the state right away. Because the state would have to pay for the burden of relocating it. They wouldn't give us an easement when we got to their property, they made us get in the state right away. You know, because they knew that's just their gambit, you know, they couldn't control the others because we got private easements from property owners. So segments like that, we'll have to pay for relocation. The other segments, they'll have to pay for. And so there's gonna be some of that. It was pretty significant. Their amount was pretty significant. And the way it's been done right now, it's been done patchwork because of hopscotching around and further complicates it. It complicates the payouts and the cost sharing and so on, but we'll get there. I just want to mention that number could get bigger.
Mayor, can you answer that question as to how the state will pay for their portion?
You know, I can't right off.
Okay.
Attempt to, because I'm not up on all of that, but I can tell you that just a call, and I'm not trying to make it simple, but I don't know, Jared Wiley is in charge of most of all of this as far as the very top. I mean, Lori Tudor is the director, Jared, we're out under her, and he's been able to answer any question I've got, and I don't know if Tim's reached out to Jared or if he's reached out to you, Tim, or there are people up there that can answer those questions. You know, I get to follow these emails, requests, and pay your stuff out, and talk to Tom about it, making sure that we're on. In fact, I forwarded something to Tom recently that looked like we weren't paying what we owed yet, and that really wasn't the case. So I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay.
I wish I did, but I think I will tell you that every time I call Jared especially, or anybody else with RDOT, they want to talk to you and tell you how it's going to work. Now, granted, I think what Tim experiences with the frustration of the hodgepodge, which seems that way to me too, but as I tell people that ask me why is the bridge higher than this one, I don't know, I'm not an engineer. So at the end of the day, it should all work out, but I know that didn't answer your question, but I'll be glad to give Tim some numbers.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there, and after, if they pay out, Jeremy had a percentage number, he had it all worked out, and he presented it to them. I don't know if they agreed on that number. That I can't remember, he may have told me, but there is a number, and it was a pretty healthy number. It's gonna work out, it's just, I don't know how that, you know, who pays who first.
I'll reach out to Mr. Wiley next week.
Okay.
Or as soon as we can.
That might be nice to know just to make sure that.
And he has always said they will be glad to come here too. and talk.
I mean, we just paid for something that maybe part of that might have, to Forster, maybe part of that might have been in that. State. It was probably a little bit of both.
Mm.
And it's not a very good example. It was probably more in their right of way than not.
But you're saying it was the state building or what, state highway building that you said that you're having trouble getting the easement through? They want you to go through?
No, when we put a 12-inch water line through there, we gained private easements because that was a state highway. We didn't want to be in the state highway right away because if it ever widens, then you bear the burden of relocating. So you preferably would rather get an easement. But when we got up to their building, they wouldn't give us an easement crowd back. They made us get in the right of way because it's to their advantage, and I get it. Wisely so, they gave us an easement. So things like that, we'll have to pay for it. The other properties on the other side, they'll have to pay for it.
I see.
It'll be on their dime. You know, and that's where the intermixing and the percentages, and Jeremy's figured all that out. He's done a good job. There's been a lot of work done on that, a ton of work, and submitted it to them. I just don't know if they accepted it or agreed it. And they're pretty agreeable. They probably did. far it's easy to work with. It's just a big project that's got a lot of moving parts.
So at this point, we are having to pay for some things
Yeah.
related to,
There's, some things that taken up big priority, like Dalton's two sewer lines that had to be sleeved, out in the Burgess's field, and then right at the entrance to the sewer plant. They're kind of at a standstill until they get relocated, so they installed the sleeves and they've done a percentage of the work, so that water line's gotta be relocated first before they can really make that push and go on across 96. And when they go in about Bill Glasses, there's some other challenges, but, I think they're gonna catch up to us faster when we get moved up here. But, we'll get there.
All that to say that you have relief on that $900,000 coming.
okay. Tim, is there any other changes or amendments you need to make?
I don't think so. I do have that office admin, and I adjusted the max pay. That's the person.
Okay. Tom, do we need to make any other decisions at this point or need to look at anything specific that you'd like to,
Not in this, not these budgets.
not in the budget?
Did you settle on this? This week?
Budget now, I think.
Right, I didn't know if that was what you said. Isn't it? 'Cause I didn't.
Yeah, he put it in there before.
I wouldn't put my, I wouldn't.
Oh, no, not his own, but
That's what I asked. Do you, because that's the only thing that's open right now, is this number.
I thought there was a number in there.
I did too.
If you wanted distribution.
The copy I have has an,
Yeah, there's nothing in there. Yeah, 3,000. So is that was on your original budget that you submitted to me,
Mhm.
so I didn't know if you, that,
I don't think anyone had any questions on that.
I don't know where that came from. I didn't put that.
That was the amount that when we gave, that was the amount he was to get when he took over water plant and operation.
because it was in.
Yeah.
it was on your original budget, so,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
If that
that's
was-
fine.
You're all.
right. We're all on par with that.
On my word, you have said, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, no, that was what you were supposed to get.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Do you see the COLAs in there
I-
at 2.3?
yes,
That is a placeholder. It's up to the council.
will they be voting on that this next meeting or?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
They'll give guidance at their first budget study session, which
Okay.
is December 5th.
Okay.
So they'll tell me what to put in there. It'll get final approved when they approve the budget, most likely in January, early January.
Okay. All right, commissioners, would you want to study this anymore? Or are you guys ready? Remember, we won't have a meeting next month, so are you ready to adopt it as presented?
I'm ready to adopt as presented.
Okay,
This is your biggest area right here, which is where your capital comes from. It's, so this is your city sales and use tax budget. And it's anything that I just did for operating expenses does not flow into this. But you're looking at $2.2 million in revenues coming in next 2025's fiscal year. The interest probably will not be 105. It might drop a little bit as you spend money because that'll decrease the amount that's in the actual bank account. Your transfers would be, you're looking at the water all in, which is treatment and operating, treatment and distribution. $5.6 million is the current budget and $5.2 million for the sewer budget. Right now it's $10 million, so you're going to be at a deficit overspend of $8.5 million. If you come down to look at what's in the bank as of right now, it's $5.8 million. You have that $972,000 as an offset to, which we just talked about from the general surplus funds. That'll bring your budgeted revenues down to $8.5 million. into that number for your revenue stream, it'll be a shortage of $1.7 million at the end of the year if they achieve their budget. Even if they fall about 2 million short, you're gonna be at $300,000. Your 26 will be the challenging year. Based on what I know they have in the pipeline. I just wanted you to see that, and that's why those numbers, when they come back, if they're, we had, about 750,000 for your water tank, and it ended up being 2.2 million.
It was 1.7, ended up being 3.7.
3.7 million. So you have something like that happen on some of these projections, and we'll be looking for that financing.
Yes.
Because of COVID.
It seems like everything we budget comes in about 3 times that way.
It was like $1.30 a gallon, a million gallon. We figured this one might be $1.70 or even $2, and it came out to like $2.40 per gallon, so it's still a lot.
Concrete did go up seriously though.
I heard that.
What we used to get, we used to buy concrete $50, $60 a yard, and 75, and then 100. I don't think it's 161, 181, somewhere around there.
I'm hearing 220.
Yeah, it's double easily, so it makes sense. I guess that's the main product of those things.
So your sewer O&M all in with everything you just did, including the changes to capital being removed from this, it's a wash in here. You're looking at a revenue stream of 7 million, take out the 5 million, that's also 5 million is sitting 5.2 in your expenses, so it washes. Bottom line is you have 7.3 million in revenue stream, and you have 6.9 million in expense stream, capital included. That is a $365,000 surplus that will be added to your coffers. Right now, you're at 246,000. You add the 365 at the end of next year, and your operating amount there will be 611,000 with the healthiest that's been in years. So they're sitting in a pretty decent operating situation. It's the capital side that's where the money drain is. As far as the water combined is concerned, this is your water budget. Your revenue stream is this is your revenue stream coming in from sales of water too. You're 9.1 million in revenue, and you come down, this is including capital now, 9.1 million in expense. So you're looking at a deficit spend of $33,415. You had 958 less the right now current deficit of 198,000. So 700, $750,000 is in your bank account for operating. You're going to increase that with this budget by 33,000, and you'll end up with still just slightly under rather $750,000.
That incorporates the new rate increase for next year.
It does.
Obviously, we're gonna have to watch those capital improvements and
This is your rates and how they were, you talked about how they were calculated. You're going from 4 million to 4 right now, that's including sanitation and your surcharges. But your water is gonna go from 2.2 to 2.8, and sewer will go from 1.5 to 2 million. So you're gonna increase the amount by 24.36% overall with everything in there. That's projected. The rate increases annually should bring in about 400,000 for water and 300,000 for sewer.
okay.
That gives you the total picture.
Thank you, Tom. All right, would you anyone like to make a motion that we go ahead and adopt this, or would you like to wait?
I'm ready to does anyone want to wait before I make a motion, we adopt as presented.
Second.
Okay, we And a second to adopt the budget as presented to us. Would you call for a vote?
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
All right, we've got it passed.
Okay, we discussed water wastewater policy at the last meeting over customer service line issues, and John and I met with the lawyer and had a discussion. His recommendation, and Charlotte put this together, and it'll be on the last page of the water policy. His recommendation was to strike shutting the water off and reference our abatement ordinance, which gives authority to lien property in the event that someone doesn't comply. And in addition to that, I took out adding the fine or fee, so to speak, from adding it to the water bill, simply because you don't want to send a additional charge on a water bill to someone who doesn't own the property. So with that, we referenced the minimum housing ordinance, which allows the animal control officer to submit those fines to that individual. And it also allows us to set our own fines laid out in the bottom of that ordinance. I provided a copy of the ordinances, both of those to y'all. So what we would do if we found an issue with the line is we would prepare a letter. We would find out if the individual at the property owns it or if they're just a tenant. And then we could find out who the owner was and where they were at. And we would provide a copy of that to the tenant as well as the homeowner. And then we could turn this over to animal.
Very good.
And then if it surpasses 90 days, as we've specified here, then it would take effect, the abatement ordinance would take effect, which would allow us to lien the property if we chose to do so.
Do you have any questions for Dalton? Thanks, John, for doing that. Me and Dalton. No one has any questions and would anyone like to approve this as presented to us?
Is there a rush on this, Dalton?
I mean, I wouldn't say there's a rush on it. It's just something we need to get addressed at some point.
I'd like to table it till next month.
Okay. Anybody opposed to that?
No.
You need to make a motion then.
Make a motion that we table the ordinances brought forth by the sewer wastewater director until next month,
I second.
Be January.
January.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk?
No.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes. Well,
It fails.
you don't have a problem with putting it back, do you, Dalton?
No, I mean, it's an issue we need to address, but everyone needs to
You ready?
be ready to move forward with it before we address
Oh,
it.
yes.
What? That fails?
No.
It's just two? It messes me up with this commission with one absent. I mean,
No,
That's-
that's a majority.
is that a majority?
Majority present.
Well, that's not the way we do the majority out of the whole quorum, even when someone's gone.
I'll make it
But
easy. I'll
the-
just change my vote to yes. How about
Okay.
that?
Okay.
Or the chairman. could
They'll
break
make it
tie
easy.
If it's.
If it's
not really
tied.
tie, we get semi-tie.
I'll just make
Semi-tie.
make it easy. How about that?
Okay. It's unanimous. It passes.
All right. Next one is amendment of our bylaws. It's really kind of a clarification that Charla has brought before us. Just a minute and I'll find that here.
It's just shaded on page 2.
Yeah, no, I just
There's
got
a
mine.
sentence in there that the office of the secretary shall maintain the official amendments of the water commission policies. That way it keeps it consistent when, that person is the elected official and likely to be here, for 4 years solid every term. And then
But everybody knows what the,
administrative assistants can change, every once in a while. They're doing that right now. We keep track of all the votes and this, that, and the other. So thought it would be probably good. We share the policies on a shared drive where Savannah and Amber, Dalton, they can all see it and we all communicate, but like the official changes to it, it's all real transparent with the directors, they're in charge of all the presentations and what they do with them. But the changes themselves as adopted by this commission, I think should be under the ex officio secretary of the commission's maintenance.
It's kind of a chain of command. Does anyone have any questions about that amendment to the bylaw?
When we established these bylaws, we didn't have water policies.
So now, yes, now that that's where we are operating, there's going to be a lot more of those, so they need to. Any of the directors have any issues with this change?
No, Charlotte's very open with the way that we use the director. She deals with this on a day-to-day basis, and she understands how the verbiage is. I can give her something to work off of, and we're on the same page. She just knows how to word it better than me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it means. Is it means that she keeps up with them or that she makes, or that she makes the
The words are there as the commission voted on them every time,
you keep up with all of them?
that there are no changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This just outlines it in our bylaws. Who's the next?
This
who's the
just
person?
means that like maybe some make changes to them that really kind of doesn't know the water commission even is responsible for that. And they think they're, it just makes sure the person that's sworn like I am to the state of Arkansas and all this does it, consistently and right, according to the vote of the commission. Just as I have custody of all of this,
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't affect any of our current policies right now.
no, I can't make changes unless the commission and the directors bring it. I'm just the central party that makes sure that, that they're according to what the official record shows.
Would it be best just to say maintaining water commission policies? I mean, because that's original policies and amendments.
It says maintaining official amendments of the water commission policies. So any amendments that go on, changes to the policies.
All right. I think that's pretty clear on that. Anybody have any problems with it? Or if anyone would like to go ahead and adopt this, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we make the change that we just discussed, D under officers.
I second.
Would you call for a vote, Charlotte?
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk?
Yes.
And Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. Number 7, the mayor would like to address the commission.
Thank you for allowing me to be on the agenda tonight. I will be brief. I know that's hard to believe coming from me, but I'll be brief for me. So about that. So what I want to talk to you about is a little bit, and just understand that I'm not asking for a vote by any means tonight. Obviously, you passed your budget or to pass on to council, so not trying to get anything done this year or even next year necessarily. I just want to plant a seed. As you all are aware, I'm sure the city purchased the property out on Highway 10 and 71, the building out there for a future or a new senior citizen center. And so that's process has been 2 years in the making. So we are under construction or under reconstruction for the remodel of that. Got a grant to do that with. Made sure that we did all that we needed to do as far as fire suppression. I say made sure what's out there is what's out there. Had an approval from the per our own fire marshals, Chief Brian, and then through the state fire marshal, that because we're not changing the occupancy of that facility, we do not have to add any new fire suppression to the building. It is not sprinkled. It does not have that capability. I did touch base with the Church of Christ, which is next door, if you will, further south on 71. we have the capability and approval from them to utilize their, I guess it's called a retention pond, that they built for their fire suppression. And so we have that available to us, and that's all there is. Again, quite clear, and make sure that everybody understands that we are going to be in the building and can be in the building with what we have now. My goal is to just kind of plant a seed for the future. I believe I want to do more for that building. I like to do more for that area. One, I believe in my mind and my heart that we need to be looking at expansion for the city in that direction. Whether water or fire suppression comes from 71, there's a 10-inch line on the other available. We talked to James for. We haven't had a couple of conversations with Jeff out there. Jeff Piles, yeah. And so there's a 10-inch line out there on the other directly across the road, and then there's also a 10-inch line on our side of the highway. And I'm not sure clear. John may even know where that line is, going south 71
It runs north-south.
on our side. So a couple of options in the future to provide some fire suppression, not just to that building, but for that end of town as we hopefully move toward that way. Whether it comes from that end toward Greenwood city limit or that side of the street, Highway 10 is not in city limits other than our facility. So everything on the north side of 10 is, as you know, all the way to 71. So we believe, I know for a fact that people have called, and since the discussion of widening 10 to 5 lane, some of those property owners have come in and said, hey, we're willing to talk about this. We want that to happen. They have 60 or 70 acres that they looked to either build, I'm not specifically to build a subdivision or commercial, but they're anxious for things to happen. Not everybody is anxious. I'll just say that. I know that if you have a house out there, not everybody's as anxious as just those property owners. So in my mind, we need to kind of think ahead again, just to see, not a vote, not a request specifically now, but to think about fire suppression coming from 71 toward Greenwood or from Greenwood out to that area. This building is ours. It's the city's. We did a bore. So my suggestion would be to you to consider in the future is either a bore of 71, 4 lanes, obviously in the medium near the building property. Thank you, Tom. Coming across 71. Yeah. Yeah. So somewhere in the neighborhood of that, coming across 4 lanes of highway and a medium to get to our side to provide, yes, this building for sure, but future. And then, or going south, like I mentioned a while ago, wherever that is. John, do you know where that is?
It runs south all the way down to the intersection of Browntown Road. But
Okay.
it gets further down. I believe it's a 12-inch part of the way.
12 inch. Okay.
But
Okay.
the pump stations on Browntown Road,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a hard time pumping fire flows all the way. There is a water tank they have up across
Right.
from Burton's property. If that water tank connects, you could have water coming both directions for
Right.
fire flows.
Okay.
If you can't get the water flowing from that tank to it, they'll never be able to pump enough for
Okay.
fire.
Well, and this is, yeah, so this is just for discussion at some point for you guys to be aware. We're going to sit down with James Fork, and I would like to invite Teresa to be in there, and then maybe even as a commission as a whole to do that, to talk about the options, what can happen and what's feasible. And I just wanted to point out too, I know we got a good deal per Tim for sure. We got a really great deal on the boring of under 71. We were going the opposite. We did the opposite. Instead of coming from the other side of 71 over, we went from our side over to the equipment rental place and for our own station, fire station number 3 in the future. So the precedence has been set that we get water where we need it out there for the city. So, and I think that was done at a crazy cost of $50,000 or something. So roundabout, not a roundabout. That's, I think $300,000 was a thought one time.
The estimate that I had worked up was over $400,000.
Yeah.
James Fork's definitely going to require engineering.
Yeah.
So engineering fees and everything. And again, that was an estimate. It could come
Sure.
in lower, it could come in higher. didn't have as big rental places, there's probably gonna be rock there, where the rental place, it was easy.
Oh, I agree.
So that changes.
Yeah, and you don't know until you do it, right? Or until you have an engineer look at it. You can't, we know, but we know one fact for sure, we know where there's rock, and that's called Bell Park, right? So,
Yeah.
and it should never be a surprise again, although it seems to be a surprise every time for some reason.
I have a question for you,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On the west side of 71 where the, I guess, fire station number 3 property has been bought and that is there, and then the Boys and Girls Club, what's the water situation in that area? Is it James Fork? Is it us? I don't know.
So we took a line across. I'll let Tim answer that question. I think
Well,
yes and no.
you my personal opinion, when we went across the road, we put a bid in there because we had property there, and we also, it was a fall. And it came in so cheap, and also, one of the reasons we went down 71 was to establish territory. When we went over there, Jamesport doesn't have a water line right there. Theirs is on Denver, and they have it back on Hester. And we kind of, in my opinion, gave in to them. They let the rental place,
Mhm.
they said that was theirs. I disagree. We had a water line there, they didn't. So his water meter sits back there on Denver Road, and his private line runs all the way to his business.
Yeah, they actually got didn't they get an easement from the fire station property
Yeah, they
from
came
us?
the city of Greenwood.
Yeah, to come up. Yeah.
We helped them
Yeah.
establish their territory. Sorry, I'm just
No.
giving you the facts. And
Yep.
I kind of feel like we should have probably tried to challenge and serve that, because so that kind of makes up their territory. We kind of ceded that to them. And in their mind, it already was, but according to Natural Resources, at the time we had a meeting with them, they said, wherever there is a water line, or wherever there isn't a water line, it's any man's. And in my opinion, that was one of the reasons we wanted to push across, was to establish that territory.
And due to that, I think it's important, whoever's in charge of anything at any time, if the sooner you start these conversations, the better off you are. Because if you wait until we're trying to hire Manford, is that who that was? Manford Phillips to do a bore, and you haven't got all that settled with James Fork, then you're looking at all these other complications.
You're trying to get fire suppression, and Jamesport's only pumping from the south. You will never get the flows that you need for fire suppression.
All I can say is, John, that is we're going to talk to James Fork about that to get their, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I need to hear that.
7 or 8 miles of pumping.
Yeah. So, but they are aware of our initial request and why we're asking. And the only thing I got back from Jeff was let's get together with our engineers and talk about it.
We definitely need
So-
to do that because we have more than just this one issue.
Yeah.
You know, I would hate for us to provide fire suppression everywhere and we're not getting the customers off of it.
Oh, I agree.
And especially if James Fork maybe cannot service some of these areas, which we've been kind of led to believe sometimes that might happen.
It's a bigger, as you all know, you've all been on most of these discussions with Jacob Burton's property, how this works, how it shouldn't work, what you have to do, what you got to purchase. It's
Yeah.
all a little crazy, to be honest with you. I just wanted to throw it out there and say, for the future, again, we don't need it for this building. Would I feel better at night that we had it? Absolutely. But legally, we don't have to have it per state fire marshal. So I will say that the gentleman that owns the storage unit right beside the new center wants it and wants it for his business, and also wants to be annexed in. He's just kind of waiting to see how it goes. Now, I will say this too, just for the sake of you knowing what everybody we're talking to, and they may have already sold their property, but Royal Ridge, who owns the property across 10 from us,
Right.
who had been dynamiting that and providing material for the bypass, 2 birds with 1 stone. That's a pretty good deal. So they haven't blasted in a while, but we approached them. When I say we, Hunter did the initial call, and we've talked to them, and they were interested in helping us with solve this issue in the sense of, and I don't want to say something that they can't, they suggested in-kind service. So if we ever got it on our side, they would be willing to possibly help with in-kind or get it on our side and then get it over. They want it across 10 to them. And I suggested to them, if you want it, you ought to do it before 5-lane comes along. Cause then, you can do 2-lane cheaper than you can do 5-lane. And that's what that's going to be right there. So they're a little bit interested. I've heard recently that reason we made that initial call was the rumor was that they were going to build a convenience store there because that's what Royal Ridge does. I've heard through another grapevine that they may have sold all those convenience stores and they're not doing that. But that's just a possibility, I guess, of somebody assisting. So that's really it. Just want to make you aware of the discussions we've been having with James Fork and I hear you, John, for sure. I understand what you're saying. I know you know those lines, but I'm anxious to kind of get with them and have you join us or as a commissioner, whatever you want to do. So,
How does it,
yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you can still start firing it, but it would be their line.
Yeah.
They would own it all.
And to mention, and again, I think I've already said it, but a couple of property owners are very interested to hear our discussions. And Bob Ross is one of them. I don't know if you know where his property is. He has cattle. I'd say halfway between the Senior Citizen Center and Swepco. They're on the left if you're going out to 71. He's got a Angus farm. And he's one of those guys that came in with his son almost immediately, said, hey, we'll get out of the cattle business real quick if we can, commercialize this property or subdivision or whatever. So there are other interested parties. So I'm sorry.
and this may be a silly question and you may not be able to answer it, but so it sounds like James Fork would probably be the cheapest way if we bored under the highway.
Right.
Do we put like a meter up or something? How do they know how much water's taken out of there?
No, it would be, you would have, if you're gonna serve, let me see if I can explain this easy. It would be their fire line, their infrastructure, their water.
Okay.
No big deal. They own it. If they wanna add on to it, serve more customers, it's their service area. Now, you could purchase that, that service area, and then you would have to meter it. You would have to put a big vault or meter and work out a different agreement with them. But we could not sell water off of it. You could
So
find
it wouldn't
fire
really
off
help
of
us
it.
come in for future. I'm just thinking future growth.
Yeah, I think
You'd have to purchase that.
Wouldn't
I
it be
think it
better
all
to
depends
go
on-
from town now then?
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't it, well, for future growth, wouldn't it be better to go from town?
Well, that was my thought. If that makes more sense, and I'm not that guy to decide that, but certainly,
Tim, from highway from Coker out to the Church of the Nazarene, is it Church of Nazarene? That's where,
Church of Nazarene, there's a
is
fire
that 12
hydrant.
inch all the way from Coker to Nazarene?
The Nazarene Church, you know where that fire hydrant is, and the Nazarene Church is where our service area ends. And on just probably you can throw a rock from that fire hydrant to the end of James Fork's line. There, that way is theirs, both sides of the road. they're
Okay.
stacked.
But from Coker to Nazarene, what size line do we have? Do you know off the top? 12 inch? Hydraulically, you're going to have to come from the city of Greenwood, most likely.
and that's great. I mean, I say it's great. I just know this is a conversation we've had, and the conversation to have about that is with you guys for sure, or not you, you're out. But so whatever,
Can't
what,
serve customers, you know.
yeah. What makes sense for the future, Mr. Selkirk? I think to answer your question is, what's the idea? What's the purpose of any of it? Is it just for fire suppression out there, or is it for future growth of Greenwood all on both sides? I will throw this out there just for the sake of saying it too. Highway 10, as I mentioned a while ago, is going to be widened to 5-lane. Some think in another 10 years. I think it's going to be way before that. It's not been established. They don't have a timeline on that. We know phase 1 of the bypass is what you see to Fowler, and then it stops. Phase 2, technically, of the whole they have phases within phase 1, but phase 2 is the widening of 10 to 5-lane from Fowler to 71. It makes sense, in my opinion, I'm not an engineer, but it makes sense to be considering what should be done or what could be done in the future for Greenwood as they widen that. I know you can come back back in later and add lines along the highway, but looks like it would make sense to get with RDOT and see how that looks. And they've said the same thing. They've asked me, but when we first started this, he said, are we ever going to pursue growth in that direction? I said, well, we don't have a lot of options. There's not a lot of place to grow, but that would be one of them, in my opinion. So, which I know you talk about things being expensive. Obviously, I'm not trying to hurry anything, but if you don't talk about it, the longer you wait, the more expensive it gets. So
My personal opinion would be that we get this out now and have it lined out, because we don't want to run the fire suppression out there, and then all these places want to put in housing additions, and then we're forced in a corner again where we've got to buy.
right. And I don't know if this is the
Customers.
right place to do it or the right way to do it, but there's, when we put water line out to Tractor Supply, I know you have in an ordinance of whatever it looks like, the tie-ons are X amount of dollars and all those things after the line's put in, and that helps you get your money
Right.
back, not mentioning sales tax revenue.
But fire suppression, we would.
Yeah,
get that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
So
if that's
I
all
just
we're
think it
doing.
ought to be out there and everybody look at it and ponder it, I guess.
Definitely.
Any other?
Yeah, so I'm going back to the boys club and girls
Oh, I'm
club.
sorry.
Or the.
What does the water look like?
Well, no, is that in the city limits?
Boys and Girls Club is, yes.
Okay.
We got that
is
annexed
the
when I was
new-
the director
in the
out there.
new number 3 fire station as
Yes.
well. Okay,
Yes.
so I just I've had this conversation with some people and talked about it's not in our lifetimes, but as we look to the future for our kids,
I heard that
grandkids,
about
and
the
so
bypass
on,
too, but go ahead.
is that the interstate's going to be going
Yeah.
out that way, and if we can't even establish our boundaries or out to Highway 71, it's going to be hard to get to that interstate at some point in time. And I know it's decisions that we make now lead to that or not lead to that.
Right.
So I just want that established as well.
I agree. I think we ought to be having discussions with Hackett now. If we have a little bit. Back before I was even mayor, there were a little bit of discussions and it didn't go well. So, and I'm not saying Hackett has to agree with us or we have to agree with Hackett, but halfway between us and Hackett, if I've got my directions straight, that's where 49 is coming in. And that's going to be a big deal.
A little closer to Hackett, unfortunately.
Okay. Well,
It's Elder Branch is the road, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
It's coming through Elder Branch.
Yeah.
And I know that for the record, Fort Smith wants us to go down Highway 10 and not up 71.
Right.
So
right.
anyway,
There you go.
just throwing that out there.
We got you. Okay. Anything else?
Thanks,
I
man.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, another thing that we can think about.
While that was going on, I just want to say that it is 4 of these members that make a quorum, according to our bylaws. So Teresa should have been voting this whole time.
I told her I voted yes.
And so that is another reason that 2 failed. It's not for the members present, it's for the whole commission, even when people are absent.
Okay,
Just wanted to
thanks.
get that in there.
Thanks for clarifying that for us. Okay, I just want another clarification here because it was brought up at our last meeting to confirm that this commission is on board with going ahead with our January 1st, 2025 water, wastewater base rate increase per that study we had. Obviously, after our budget, I think we have to go that way, but I want to make sure that everyone is on board with that. I don't know that we need a vote on it, but if anybody is against it, let's speak your piece or forever hold your peace.
Because it's set by ordinance to go
Right.
into effect.
Yes.
Or
it
does it
is.
say May? Let's
I
look.
thought we had the option to not make it.
We have the option at any time to back off of it, but I think we said we would do it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, what, $7,000 a year extra?
We need it.
Looks like
No,
it may.
It's going to happen. It says it's happening.
It says
Rates
it's happening.
effective January
But
1st.
on down through there, it says at any
Oh,
time
it
we
does?
can.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanna make sure that it's for general purposes, operations, projects, and debt service, be used for any or all 3.
Yeah.
Bills go out in the morning and we're putting the verbiage on there, but language,
Okay.
we gotta know that we're going to remind, a little reminder that it pays
Okay. Are you okay with that?
Just need to make, could we just make a motion just in
Yeah.
case?
Yeah,
Okay, I want to make a motion that we go forward with the rate increase that we discussed last year at the rate study for the do the second phase of it.
Let's establish by ordinance, but yes.
Okay. A second?
I second.
All right, we have a first motion and a second. Would you call for a vote?
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Burchett,
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
unanimous. I think that reading through there, the thing that's up for consideration or not is that CPI.
Oh,
That's the thing, but
You're right. You're
the
right.
other part is supposed to
Yes.
happen by ordinance.
I,
Just being clear.
yeah, I don't think we need any CPI this year. I think we can,
Yeah.
These rates right here, in 26, 27, and 8 are the 2% increases that we have. Sole discretion, so whatever you want to do.
CPI, okay. Thank you for clarifying that,
You're welcome.
Charlotte. All right, the other thing is that we did vote, I believe, that to authorize a collection agency. And I got a copy of the
Agreement?
on that and sent it to each of you because I wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to look at it and be on board with signing and enacting this contract.
Now, I do want to clarify that this is an agreement. I had a discussion with Greg today because I sent out an email to all the department heads asking for any contracts to be turned in to be approved by the city council. And he said, we just have agreements, not necessarily contracts. And I guess there is a difference. So this one is actually called an agreement.
Yes.
So we don't need the city council is what I'm even
Okay.
bringing this up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think it can be canceled at any time. if I
Yeah,
remember
it's not
right.
binding.
Yeah.
That's probably why it's called an agreement.
Correct.
Huh?
And I believe this is the company that maybe Fort Smith uses. I think that's what Chad told me.
yeah, I think that is.
Jim, we were talking about the agreement that I sent out to everybody from that collection agency that Chad had researched. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a copy of it and no one had any questions on that agreement. And Charlotte clarified that it's not a contract, but an agreement, and that this commission can approve that and sign it.
Right.
Okay. Anybody want to go ahead and make an emotion that we execute this agreement?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Charlotte, would you call for a vote?
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mrs. Burchett.
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk.
Yep.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. We'll go ahead and get that started. And I guess this will fall on you, Tim, for the billing office. Get that to you. And there was a form to fill out for that. Okay, we'll go on to the department project reports, water distribution.
I don't really have a lot of reports.
Add is the water end of it's pretty much done. I think there's not a small 2-inch line's going to have to be relocated and get picked up on the, I guess, the survey make way for the wastewater line. It has to be a 10-foot physical separation. Other than that, it's in, they're taking samples. I think one of the samples came back bad. That's nothing to go forward. Ironically, after, you've heard me drone on about the lead service line inventory thing. Schifrin was hired. It's a two-name company. I can't remember the other name. Schifrin's the main person. I got a call from someone out of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, last Friday, and he's supposed to call me in the morning. And he is connected and been hired by Schifrin. And I told him how disappointed I was that they kind of left us hanging and we had to go outside outside consultation to get as big a push as we possibly could by the October 16th deadline. And he even pointed out to me some of the, apparently the health department, the EPA even have different guidelines. And so he said that he's going to call me in the morning. I'm going to look into it more. We've still got Hawkins and Weir, Meg Kelch on retainer to help us out with some of the ins and outs of the template. But he said that whatever he says, he doesn't blame me for being upset, and I have every right to be, and I was very polite about it. But anyway, long story short, he said whatever they do for us will be free. So I'm going to hear him out anyway. It's no cost to us. And maybe we'll get some help. I don't know. So we'll see. But apparently he's some kind of sub out of he's out of St. Louis. Schifrin's out of Northwest Arkansas, or he's out of Poplar Bluff, excuse me, which is close to St. Louis. Anyway, so that'll be interesting development. And so Greg's been helping train this dumb distribution guy, and he's been a big help. And I can tell you, I'm trying to, I got some big shoes to fill, and I appreciate him being patient with me and my struggles with Excel and other forms and so on. So it's been good. It's been good. So I just want to say I don't really have anything else to report.
Tim, have you seen any letters that have come out of Fort Smith by any chance?
I have.
So can you kind of explain to me, there's like 3, 4, 5 maybe things that people can do. They can have the water tested. They can do these other things before they actually dig up a line or something of that nature. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's such a sensitive thing that Fort Smith they always think and they have the resources, obviously they're big, and they have at least one engineer, maybe 2 engineers on staff. I think they just want to get out with PR. I think that's what that letter was more about. To me, if I opened it up and I was a Greenwood resident, it'd be more frightening to me than helpful. It didn't answer a lot of questions. But there is, and I think what it's in a nutshell, kind of what they were saying is that if you have one, or if you have that line, don't worry, because we're going to test it and you're going to be okay. But it bore you to tears. I mean, it was a pretty big document. I thought it was a little bit overkill. And there is going to be, if there is a galvanized line and unknown, possibly at one time lead, then there is a potential for testing, and that we're going to be required, the city of Fort Smith's required, we're going to be required to perform that testing, and probably be required to furnish them Brita water filters and all of those things. At our expense. And now I'm hearing that there's potentially some money that's going to become available. I can tell you it's going to disappear like a vapor, though, because there's a lot of work to be done. And Van Buren's actually looking at just hiring a firm to go in. Van Buren's still got became a water system in 1897. And they still have some of their original, I think it's 1897. They still have some of their original water lines. And he said they're surprisingly in better shape than some of this new stuff. But so they're actually going to address, and Van Buren's got a historic and a real old. They're going to hire someone, and because they just want that image. I think we're gonna make a big splash. I would like to be finished next year. I don't know that we will, but I feel confident. We do copper lead required. We've never been out of a lead service line. Connectors at one time, but now they're saying connectors don't count. They change their rules as they make their rules, and I'm going to be educating myself more. But I did see that letter. I didn't read it thoroughly. What I did read was to me as a consumer would be very confusing.
Yeah.
I think it's just more PR. I think that kind of PR in a small city, the phone starts ringing.
A copy of that later next
Yeah.
meeting.
Someone had one that floating around. I took a glance at it. I didn't read the whole thing.
Okay.
But I think it's more of a PR ploy. We are going to be required, obviously, we will be required to do notification, and they're probably counting that letter as some of their notification. But when the dust settles, I think that we're going to prove that our water is safe and as lead free as anybody's. We don't have any lead service lines on either side, and we're going to determine that legitimately. So, but it's going to take some work and it's going to take some ongoing potentially monitoring. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get a little more stringent. We do it every 3 years now. Every time mayor runs for election, I do copper lead sampling. It seems like it's every 3 year cycle, and it's a chore because the customer has to pull that sample. You can't pull it, and they have to do it a certain way. They have to let the water be stagnant for like 6 hours. It used to be 8
First thing in
hours.
the morning.
Yeah, you let it stagnate overnight, then you draw it first thing, and then it has to be to that certain line level, and you can't have their name on it. It's got to be coded and everything. And getting 30 or 40, 60 people to do that's challenging. They'll mess it up. And then they have to fill out the paperwork, and they mess the paperwork up, and then you do it again. But I expect we're going to see more of that. But that's what that letter was about. And I didn't read it through and through. I'll get a copy of it and read it thoroughly. I thought it was a little bit much for what they were trying to get across. But
That explains why I have to do that. Steve Core, and he always puts it on my doorstep. Doesn't give me any explanation or what to do because I already know what to do. I do that every time it comes up. Another thing too is we've been putting in a line coating. It was a zinc orthophosphate, but we had trouble with zinc, so we changed to poly orthophosphate that we put in at the plant. And if you got lead, you still got it covered. If you put it in, we keep it at about 1%. And so that's something that just helps the city. That helps cover anything. It's a coating, that's a benign coating that goes out and covers the pipes. It saves a lot of problems right there. Tim's doing a good job, by the way, learn all this. And Pete knows water very well, so this is not a problem. I think his biggest problem is trying to train me. It's Pete trying to tell me the right way to do it. But anyway, he's came up with some new ideas, and they're very good. So on our tank, we're still waiting on the health department. I called engineer twice last week, asking him to ask. He said they came in with a bunch of good questions. Here lately, it's been just a lot of nonsense. I'm not going to say they don't know what they're doing or anything, but he said they just weren't there. Some of their questions weren't big questions. He said they were pretty easy, and I don't know why it's taking so long. But the good news is it's the same people that built the 1 million gallon tank up there, and they do a great job. You pretty well just get out of their way. About the only thing you'll have to worry about is when they move the line. We've got a distribution line that goes out from our pump station. They'll have to move it and go around it, and that's about the only thing they'll get into. Other than you just get out of their way, and John watched it being built. So to do it. Our only other thing is the V-notch weir. It's installed via Dalton. It's from the ponds up there. They have to be connected to the water plant because he doesn't control what's put in it. So the water plant has to control that. So we've got the V-notch weir in there, and we've got to run power to it. And then I'll call and have their guy come in and install all the stuff for it. And it has to be monitored. You'll put a plug in it, and it'll tell you how much water's gone through it each day. And once a year, you're going to have, I forgot, Dalton reminded me and Pete that once a year you have to have it calibrated. And that won't be a problem, but we'll get the electric up to it and call for Paul to come out and fix it, and got to do some dirt work around it. So other than that, that's it. This is my final meeting. I appreciate you guys. Won't have no more problems with me. Appreciate it.
I don't have a lot, but as Slightly earlier, we had our pre-construction meeting for the wastewater plant rehab project last week. We took delivery of all those parts today, and I met with All Tech Machine about cutting in our header connections for that. And they're scheduled to start that on December 2nd, as soon as we get back from Thanksgiving. We also had a pump delivered this morning, so we can start drawing those down and have it empty and ready for them when they get on site. And we paid, for the sleeves for the bypass project a week or so ago. That was $250,000. And we just paid a $40,000 bill on the sewer model last week as well. So things are moving along.
You pretty happy with what's,
Yeah,
How
I
it's
have
moving
no
at this
complaints thus far. There's just been a few hurdles to overcome here and there as we try to figure out how we're going to shut part of the plant off to incorporate this new stuff without giving a full plant shutdown. But it's just stuff to overcome as we go.
Gonna be fun.
It's already been a little fun.
He standing out today, I drove by the plant, he was standing out there waiting for a truck, and waiting out there an hour or two.
Yeah, the truck driver got lost and he drove by the plant about 4 times. So I was standing on the highway trying to wave him down.
do you have access from the,
Yeah, I spoke with Foursquare last week and they came in and covered that road back up so we could get the truck in because there's no way that semi could access the
back way?
plant. So they took care of that for us and we
Great.
got it in and unloaded today.
All
Any
right.
questions?
Any questions?
Can I make a comment
Yes.
further at that section? I would like to make. I just want to wish Greg a happy retirement. He's been a wonderful employee for the city of Greenwood for so many years. I worked with him back when I was a financial assistant, and his POs were always like, he probably had a 99% correct rate with his. And I could always count on him to help do what? Yes. But maybe that's why, he was very thorough, very easy to work with, always jolly and helpful, and gonna miss him. And I just want to give him a hand because he has been just a mainstay and a wonderful asset to the. That's right. He's a check signer. So, I mean, he's an important person and been here for so long. So it's not gonna be the same without him.
That's right. But I know he'll enjoy his retirement.
Happy retirement.
Yes, happy retirement. Come by and see us. So, all right. All right. We have any other commentary we want to make here? No, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
All right.
I'll say aye.
Reynolds, Burchett,
Yes.
Selkirk, Bailey. I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
I haven't voted yet.
I mean,
Has anybody ever voted not to adjourn?
not around here. Not here.